It's all you.
It's all me.
Oh, you.
All me. And then we'll show them how to do that. Go around it. Perfect. All right, so are we live, boys? Sweet.
We are live.
We are live.
Back in the basement.
Back in the basement. You know, it feels like it hasn't been that long. And
It
that's
has
because it hasn't.
2
All right.
weeks.
Got my heat gun plugged in. Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
So we're back. And we're doing, what are we doing tonight, Hunter Man?
We are doing a little more decorative work.
Yeah?
Last show went pretty well. Our marbling show.
It did. It went very well. I
So?
think everybody liked it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me that, you know, we're doing the decorative stuff, and I think everybody knows how I don't do decorative stuff. So,
Neither of us do, yeah.
yeah, neither one of us do it. That doesn't mean we don't know how to do it, and we haven't shown you guys how to do it, but there's something to be said about
You guys
simplicity.
love it.
Yeah, right. So we want to make sure that we pass on that knowledge and whatnot. So we're doing a few things. We're going to be doing some giveaways.
Yep.
We're going to be giving some decals away. Going to be giving some abalone stuff. You got the snake skin out.
Snake skin, yeah.
Now you went out and harvested all of these, right?
All of these, yep. I
Perfect.
got my rattlesnake, sea snake, fresh from the Atlantic,
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Wonderful.
and the cobra.
And the cobra, naturally. All right, cool. So yeah, we're gonna do decals, we're gonna do abalone, we're gonna do snakeskin, and of course, answer questions. We're gonna shop on Hunter's credit card tonight with the giveaways, as always. And you ready to get this thing started?
Let's do it.
Boys, what do you think? Let's hit it.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
Right there.
Oh, he got it for us.
Got it.
Woo! And we're back.
So yeah, we're gonna
Perfect.
do some snake skin.
Right?
And in the middle, we're gonna do some maybe like 101 on decals.
Right.
Because that's always you know, something.
And we have the,
do you
do
got?
you
What do you got?
have the rods that we have the snake already on? They're on this side?
Are they? I didn't see them over there.
I thought, no. Did we take them back up front?
Right next to me.
Oh,
Oh, look
they're
at
on
that.
Hunter's side. All right,
The other side.
I was gonna say, I thought they were over here, then they're over there. So, that is,
We're gonna be doing this tonight.
you wanna talk about taking it to 12. That is, that's full on. That's a Pat
Pat Van
Van Zandt. That is some crazy stuff. Now,
So we're gonna do the basic version of this.
right, but that's the cool thing, and that's where you can go, even here, up under this double-footed guide. So, yeah, there is, and we always try to stress this, right? Some of this stuff we show you is how to do it.
Right.
We're not showing you the limitations of it, because obviously you can take it and go wild with it. We're going to show you the basics of how to work with it, how to cut it, how to measure it, how to get it on the rod. You know, all of those ins and outs. We would be here for 2 weeks if we showed you cool examples of, you know, what some of our customers have done, what some of y'all have done, you know, what the guys up front have done with some of this wild decorative stuff. So we're just going to show you how to work with it, what to expect when you get it, and then it's up to y'all to let that imagination run wild.
That's it.
Cool.
Well, don't forget we got giveaways.
Yes.
3 giveaways as always.
Yep, so we're going to be doing custom decals, abalone kit with a heat gun, and then of course the grand prize, as it usually is going to be an MHX rod kit tonight.
Metallic rod
And
kit.
it's going to be a metallic rod kit tonight. And one of my personal favorites, I know it's a favorite of yours too, the SJ842 is going to be going to a lucky winner for the grand prize. Always remember, like and share, and as you participate, that's how we, you know, find your name to put it up on the board and give it away. Now, we do have a couple things.
Yep.
We just got the new LZR kits in, so those are pretty cool because they come in this really, you know, clean, sleek carbon fiber type box. They're a little different than some of the other guide sets because we provide them in two, it's not lengths or sizes, but there's a spinning and a casting. And so if you build a 6-footer, you're going to have some extras. If you build an 8.5-footer, it's all the way to that. We do that because, a lot of the customers have said, hey, it would be great to have, a backup running guide or two on hand, or I don't know what I'm going to be building with this maybe when I want to buy this set because I'm putting an order in and doing that stuff. So we've provided you guys with a box set of LZRs, spinning, casting, and you can go and run wild with them.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I'm a big fan of the LZRs, and then of course we've got some stuff in clearance section. We got
the Pac Bay Quicklime blanks are 50% off,
yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. And
So-
we've got Mag Bass tapers in there. We've got SJ tapers in there. Kind of the meat of that lineup. So that's it's not anything like really obscure. That's like, well, no wonder that's on sale.
Right.
Who wants to use that weird length or power or anything? The Quicklines are in there, good discount, and it's the meat of the deal. Yeah. So you want to get this thing going?
Let's do it. We'll start off with some snakeskin, huh?
Yep.
All right. Well, let's see here. So if I can get those 2 rod stands from you.
Yep.
So, as Chris mentioned earlier, the snakeskin can kind of go. Let me move these out of the way.
You'll want to get us one of those LZR boxes too while Hunter's doing this. I'll show that in between breaks.
So the snakeskin can go under a guide wrap. It can go in your split grip area. It can go above your foregrip. It can kind of go wherever you want it to, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, on Pat's rod, he had it over the handle. He had it, like you said, in a number of different places. It's really just going to be based on your imagination. That's all there is to that. So.
Grab a couple of these bands.
Oh yeah. Do we have a band or two under here?
You only need one.
All right. Yeah.
There.
Cool. Yeah. Here, bring them up here. Thank you.
So we're actually going to be doing all of our demos on this rod blank tonight. Oh, I am going to need one more.
I don't know if I had.
So good, I got one right here.
You're right. Okay. I was going to say, I know I had brought some back here, or I think Jaybird did.
So I'm going to do this one in front of the foregrip just to give you guys a good visual. Later on, we'll be doing some abalone and a couple other decals here. So,
yeah.
So what you want to start with, you can order. I'm going to do the rattlesnake. You can order this by the inch, right?
Okay.
So we make it a little bit easier. You don't have to buy like a foot or 20 inches, however long you want it to be. So you always want to buy a little bit more than you need, right?
Naturally.
Maybe an inch or 2 extra on each side. So if you're going to be doing a split grip area, you probably want to get 8 or 10 inches, right? If you're doing above the foregrip, you probably want to get at least like 6 inches or so.
Sure.
And then you can always, cut to fit. If you got 2 or 3 guides that you want to do, you can just do them in 2 little small, 1 inch, 2 inch sections. Perfect.
Absolutely.
So what we want to start with, we've already kind of pre-cut this one down to maybe 4 or 5 inches. What you want to do is always start with clean edges on each side. So I'm going to come in, imagine that we're going to put this a couple inches above the foregrip, spread that out just a little bit. And you always want to make sure that you kind of align. We got our real seat here. This is a casting seat, so this rod, when you hold it in our hand, this is going to be on the top, triggers on the bottom. We want to put our scales or whatever the pattern is on the top side because we always want to be looking at it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And also, it's going to put your seam, it's going to hide it on the other side, so you're
Yeah.
never really going to see it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do, we'll say about maybe that much. So let's cut this down. I'm just going to cut it clean on each side. Straight as I can. No big deal if it's off by just a hair. We'll do this side as well.
And that's a good point about having, kind of the meat of the skin there where the most decorative pattern is, lining it up.
Of course, like I said, you want it on top. We'll slide it down just a little bit here. I'm going to come in, I'm going to make 2 marks with our white shiner marker on each side of the snake skin. And those are just kind of our reference points of where it starts and where it ends, right? Now, there's 2 ways you can go about, making these cuts to make sure the snake skin folds around correctly because we have a tapered blank, right?
That's right.
So even, you know, even the ultralight or the biggest saltwater rod, there's going to be a slight taper no matter what. Some are going to be smaller than others, and especially if you go, if you go up the blank more, you might have a little more taper.
Right.
Once you get down to the butt section, it's not going to be as much.
For sure.
So you can either do it what we call kind of the tape method, or you can use calipers. I'm going to do the tape method, and I'm also going to show you how to do with a caliper too if you want.
Nice.
Cool. So
I'm a tape method kind of guy.
yeah, it
know,
makes it easier.
tape method, tape arbors.
Yeah, you love your
yeah.
tape.
Yeah,
I don't blame you. So, what we're gonna do first is I'm gonna take a Sharpie, and so if you guys can see there, right, we're good. So I'm kind of just eyeball the middle of this pattern. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect. I'm just gonna kind of get my eyeball on like one side here, flip it over. I'm gonna make a mark in the middle. I'm going to do that for the other side as well. That just gives me a reference point, kind of where I'm going to aim in for this pattern to be at.
Yep.
Square.
Because I think, you remember last time, I think what you had mentioned to me is you can take it and fold it,
Yep.
you know, and kind of, so you're looking at the pattern on one side and
can,
whatever.
if you wanna do
I
that,
remember, you know, we had
Absolutely.
talked about that off camera or whatever. Make
So-
sure you get it up so that they can see it above here, I
gotcha.
think is what we're getting the motion from our
Gotcha.
producer. Attaboy.
No problem. So once we got that done, we're going to come in with our tape. So we got our 1/2 inch masking tape, if I can find the edge. I'm going to do on each side, and I'm doing the outside, you know, it's going to be close either way, whether you do it on the outside or the inside. I usually do it on the outside. I'm going to roll this around a couple times here. Basically what you're doing is coming up with the circumference of this rod blank. A couple times around.
For those geography, or no,
Oh, whoa.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Math.
geometry buffs.
Geography.
Geography buffs. The circumference.
So once we got our tape rolled around a couple times, I'm going to come in with a razor blade. And of course, I'm sure a couple guys are probably a little scared right now. Don't worry. All we're going to do is just barely score this tape. Make sure you do not go too deep to mess up the blank underneath the tape. Once you've done that, just peel it off.
While you're peeling that, I'm going to get a question here. Eddie, can you put the snake skin on an ice blank? Eddie, you can, but you might get like 3 scales on it. It's just, if you're going to put it right on the blank, you might run into a little bit of, trouble with the ultra thin diameter of that blank, unless you want to use it over the top of a handle, like we showed you there with Pat's build, or if you've got maybe a split section on some of those larger, like the CRB, the ones that are the solid glass ones. Those have a little bit larger diameter, so that would probably be a better blank to choose. Some of those that have a butt diameter of less than a 1/4 of an inch, that's going to be tough to wrap anything around it. Bob, how do you store your snakeskin until you're ready for it? Bob, we've just got it here in the warehouse like this. I mean, we don't have it in any kind of special climate-controlled humidor or anything like that. I would, just maybe be leery of, extreme climates, kind of with anything. To be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, I haven't talked to the snakeskin wrangler guys that put this thing together. I mean, they don't warn me and say, well, you can't store it in, over 70% humidity or something like that. But, I would be a little leery of, something getting a hold of it. Maybe put it in an area that's, not extreme temperatures, plus maybe not around the house cat or something. I don't know. But I don't have any warning labels on this as you can't store it here or there or whatever. So kind of maybe use best judgment on that, Mr. Bob. You good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'll get some of these other questions, sort of pertain to other sections of this.
What I've done, I've got my 2 pieces of tape, which basically is going to act as your circumference. That's the measurement you're going for there, right? So after I've got that, now if you have a pair of calipers, you can come in, measure your blank wherever your two white China marks were, right? And that's going to be the diameter of your blank. And if you want to get circumference, you can multiply your diameter times pi, I believe it is, 3.14, and that's going to give you your circumference. Do you know that? Maybe?
I got Google.
Maybe? I use Google too. So
Yeah,
it's all
exactly.
good.
Exactly.
So-
I have an iPhone.
If you have calipers, you can do that method. Works just as easy. Tape also works easy. All up to you guys. So once you got your two pieces of tape, now if you want to get super, super precise on this, and once, you know, if you have a blank that has a very drastic taper, I would definitely recommend. You basically want to get, you know, the middle of this tape, right, is going to go basically, you know, want to line it up with that black mark that you made earlier for the middle of your design, or the scales on the back, right? So you can either measure that out with a ruler. Again, if you have calipers, makes it so much easier. So you got to measure this. And of course, we're going to shorten this process. We're about 1.5 inches. I'm going to come in, and you're basically just finding the center line of your black mark, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Again, that simplified version for you guys at home. They want to make it absolutely perfect.
Yep.
And we are done there.
Nice. Hey, Bob, can you put snakeskin over EVA? You just got to be careful, because any kind of material that you put over the top of EVA, because EVA has, you know, different what they call durometer ratings, which is the firmness or softness of that material, you know, it could buckle on you a little bit as you know, fish with it or squeeze it and it breaks in. That's just something I'd be a little concerned about. I would want to make sure that it, you know, that your snakeskin is put over something that has a really good solid base. Ray, yes, painter's tape would work. The blue painter's tape, we use that stuff, you know, when we need it, and you know, don't want to leave any residue behind if we're leaving it on something for a long period of time. And yeah, fish more. We would love to get some of those invasive Florida pythons in. I think they just killed an 18.5 footer maybe last week.
Yeah, I saw that.
Imagine the amount of snakeskin we get from that bad boy.
Do a whole rod.
That would be awesome. I forget how heavy they said it was, but it was something ridiculous, like 85 pounds or 100 pounds. I don't know.
Crazy.
But it was almost like a 20 footer. So, and Gilbert, yes, you are right. You can do the same method as snakeskin with a cigar leaf wrap, or you could take a band from the outside of the cigar. I've done that for someone in the past because I have plenty of those hanging around. I'm a cigar guy myself. So yeah, absolutely. All right.
All right. So what I've got here, I've got my metal ruler out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cut. I'm good there, guys. So I've got my two pieces of masking tape on the snakeskin, and I want to make a cut on each side. So I'm going to take my ruler, line up the edges of the masking tape on each piece. Right there, right there. And I'm going to make my cut on the snakeskin. One there, one on the other side.
Make sure you pull a fresh razor blade for this. Don't use one that you, you know, have been using for a while. They're inexpensive, and you know, you just want to make sure you get the best, cleanest cut. It'll end up the, you know, the best possible outcome for sure.
So what we end up is basically a piece that's gonna fit perfectly around a rod blank. All you gotta do is take off your pieces of masking tape on the top and the bottom. And there you go.
Nice.
So, to apply this, we're going to take some color preserver. This is basically going to be like your, you know, your glue bond. That's way too much. Got us a disposable brush here, and all you're going to do is paint this on. And you can be very generous. Don't be afraid. This color preserver dries clear. I know it's white out of the container, but do not worry about that.
And I don't have the plastic trays here, but we do have just these larger aluminum ones. The 4-inch and the 3-inch. You can, if you want, depending on how much snakeskin you're working with, you can put some Pro Seal inside of this guy here. Kind of dip and wash your snakeskin in it. Make sure you get it in there real good. If you don't want to do it, right on the dining room table at your mom's house, you can put it in here, keep it nice and contained, and then just pitch this out when you're ready to put that on there.
Yep. So since I've got the shorter one, I just applied it with a brush real quick on the back. Just a nice, pretty even layer. Quite a bit of color preserver. Whoop, don't drop it. Because this is going to be the only bond that you have between, well, besides when we put finish on it later.
Well, right.
For now. So let's go this way. Because I can tell the bigger diameters on the back side there.
Yep.
And then I kind of want to get over top of the rod here, make sure it lines up with the top of my reel seat. We'll drop it on. And what's cool about this is you can actually, it's not like you're working with super glue, right? You can actually kind of move this around. I'm going to get it aligned with my China marks that I made earlier.
Yep.
Right? And once I've got that in position there, I'm going to make sure it's actually straight, Just kind of imagine you're going to line it up with your guides and your reel seat as well. Once you got it there, I'm going to come in and kind of get rid of these China marks here. You want to work from the middle and then kind of push it out. Kind of like when you're working with a decal, we'll show you guys later. Kind of just want to get rid of any air pockets or anything that might be in there, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Once that's folded over.
Nice. Yeah, and then you can kind of squeegee out the little bit of remainder of the...
Yeah, so your seam is going to be a little tough sometimes, like it is now. But what I recommend doing, not only for the seam on the underside, but also for the edges, you want to come back in. And I know this looks really messy right now, but like I said, this dries clear. You do not have to worry about it. Because when you do go to epoxy this later on, the last thing you want is for that epoxy to actually get into the edges or into that seam on the back side.
Yeah, it's very similar to your decal. You don't want to make sure that nothing is going to seep up under those edges, and this is going to help you lock it down. Now, a little pro tip that I have learned from some of the gurus about these kinds of things: if you're using, so let's say you want to use the snakeskin approach. Let's say you want to use the abalone approach. Let's say you're using a rod skin that you have custom done. And you want to get a little tricky, a little sneaky with it. So Hunter showed you how to measure, center, and then work your seam on the exact underside of the rod, right? So your seam would match up with the underside so you're not looking at it. I've seen some of the guys that are way, way good at this stuff. They actually take and they offset the seam. So where Hunter did the center marks, they actually did a little bit of math, slid that mark over, cut it so that when they laid it down, if you can imagine a clock, instead of the mark or instead of the center scales and pattern being at 12 o'clock and your seam is at 6 o'clock, they actually have 12 o'clock scales and pattern and then offset it to like 8 o'clock, 7:30 your seam, so that when you get somebody that takes that rod and they turn it over and they look at it as they roll it over, they're looking for a seam, right? If somebody's trying to, stick a little jab at you, they're looking for the seam. And they roll it over and they go to 6 o'clock and they don't see a seam. And then at 12 o'clock, obviously, there's no seam. So then they're going,
where's that?
Whoa. So sometimes, if you want to get a little tricky, offset that seam a little bit. And that's your Pro Tip Tuesday here from the basement.
Pretty good.
So, yeah.
Last thing I recommend, we'll get a few questions here, is to actually, this color preserver takes about 30 minutes, an hour to fully, dry, right?
Sure.
Usually come in with some masking tape, and you don't have to use, ½ inch. You can use 1/4 inch, an eighth, if especially if you're doing smaller guide wraps.
Yep.
You want to come in and actually wrap in some masking tape. You can already see it's going to kind of squeegee out, right? And you don't have to do this very hard, but really you're just creating a nice tight bond, making sure that snake skin doesn't kind of bubble up, and even get your color preserver completely out.
Yep.
So I'll come in with 2 or 3 wraps here. Make sure you definitely use masking tape for this. I wouldn't really use anything else, just because masking tape is gonna, once this is set and cured, masking tape is gonna peel off very easy. It's not harsh on the snake skin. It's not gonna peel any scales off.
Yeah, because you can kind of see that it really doesn't want to stick to the skin as it is, especially with the color preserver on there, but it will stick to itself. So while you're doing that, Tony, is it best to put a layer of epoxy down and let dry before you add a decal? It depends on the look you're going for or what blank you're putting it on. So there are a couple blanks that are what we would call unsanded, where you can actually see the spirals, kind of the ridges where they've overlapped the material. That is a very difficult material to stick a decal on. The reason for that is every little ridge gives you a little kind of air pocket up underneath that decal. So what I would do is I would put an extremely thin layer, and of course the Pro Coat self-leveling. It'll give you a very, very good surface to then stick that decal. You don't have to be overly precise because, on your edges or whatever, on making sure it's sharp and all that, because you're going to come back over and you're going to add other layers on top of it. So just make sure you get a nice even coat. Make sure it's a thin coat, because if you're over the top of an unsanded blank and you put too much finish on, just like if you put too much finish on a sanded blank and you get waves in that, now you've just amplified the problem. So what you want to do is you want to come in and fill those grooves in, and then let that dry, then come back in with a decal. And you can even do that a couple times. You can put 2 or 3 layers of finish down, then drop a decal, then put a couple layers if you just got that much time to burn, or you want that floating decal effect that they call it. So that will give you that, like I said, that'll give you that floating decal, and it kind of has like a cool effect. And if you're going to go through that trouble, maybe even put a thread color underneath that decal. Let it show through, kind of give it a contrast. Because if you're going to put finish on it, add a little pop, add a little pizzazz to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, why not? How about Johnny? Can you put an open wrap over the snakeskin and abalone, and would I apply epoxy over the snakeskin first? My personal opinion,
Okay.
to cut you off,
Go ahead.
my personal opinion would be I would put finish down first.
Yes.
The reason being is, as you're working with an open kind of a cross wrap, and Hunter's shown it here on the show a number of times, he's very good at it. You do have to tug a little bit. You do have to maneuver a little bit. I don't want you to be tugging and sliding, and the next thing you know, you dig up under one of those scales, or you tug at it a little bit. It puts a wrinkle in the skin, because remember, that skin is not locked. It is tacked, but it ain't locked. So I would want to make sure that the skin is locked before I start stretching and pulling and on thread.
Absolutely.
So, was that what you were going
That's
with?
exactly. And I was going to actually, on top of that, I've had the question come up before, can I use thread to kind of put these anchors down and place the masking tape? And it's the same thing. You really don't want to use thread, because you have to use tension. Tension can cause those scales to pop off, or a little indentation. Definitely stay away from thread. The only one thing I would recommend is if you want to close off on each end.
Yeah.
You can wrap a little bit over the edges of these, incorporate a hook keeper, a thread wrap at the end of your snake skin, throw a hook keeper in there, finish it off on the other end with thread.
Yeah.
That looks really good.
Absolutely.
But anything in the middle, other than the edges, I would probably stay away with the thread.
Yep.
Unless you put a epoxy down first.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Can you get snakeskin that's been color dyed, like with a little red dyed into the pattern? What do you say, Mr. Purchase? Have we seen any of that?
No, I haven't.
I'm not saying you can't.
I feel like I have seen it before, but not necessarily something that we could get our hands on.
Yeah.
We've tried to before.
I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, shoot, I buy dyed fly tying material
Yeah.
stuff. You know, I just don't know if when they dry this skin out and they put whatever it is on it, I just don't know if there's some, because that's pretty like glossy. I think you guys can see that a little bit. I just don't know if they put some kind of sealer on here or something that, I don't know. Maybe there's a taxidermist in the house. I mean, shoot, we're up, you know, we got somewhere near 1,000 people watching this.
Yeah.
So anybody do any taxidermy that can say something that has already been prepped like this, if they can dye this? I don't know. Ralph, I love the thought. I love where your head's at. I'm just not quite sure.
I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah, why not? Levi's got a question. You want to jump on that
Yeah,
one?
when it were to wrap some saran wrap around it to help it hold it down while the CP is driving, Levi, yeah, I'm sure saran wrap would work.
Yeah. I would be okay
Again,
with that.
the masking tape. Everybody probably has masking tape.
Yeah, it's
when it
just
works
handy
out.
and easy.
It's so good. It
That's
doesn't-
not the only way to do it. It's just we've always got tape hanging around. So that's it. Ray, it appears it is critical you center each tape to the mark so the edge angle is correct.
Yes, Ray, it is. And of course, we are live here, and do the calculations real quick. I didn't do that step. I kind of just told you guys to do it, but yes, it is very crucial. Otherwise, your edges will not line up. So when you do have each piece of masking tape, and when you go to apply it to the snakeskin, you want to make sure the middle of that piece of masking tape lines up with the mark, the Sharpie mark that you made previously on the snakeskin. Again, I did not do that step. I'm sorry. I kind of just mentioned it in passing, but you definitely want to make sure it is lined up to that black mark or that Sharpie mark that you made.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, speaking of this stuff, you want to do the decal right there on that one, right?
We can. Yeah, we can
Cool.
just do, what are we doing, some tips and tricks on how to apply them?
Yeah, something just kind of easy, quick, something that just everybody's got to have a rod decal. We get it in the bag. Mm-hmm. We want it to be, happy birthday Timmy, all that stuff. So this is going to be for all of the clear type decals. This is something, you don't want to get your fingers on it. You don't want any of the oils from your hands, fingerprints, things like that. So it's easy, but not everybody's thought of it. It's just one of those things that I was shown when I was new into rod building, and it's just helped me. So we want to help you guys.
Yeah.
So how about that? Cool. Let me just take this guy
go ahead
right
and
here
take
for
that. Christine, will the skin stretch a little? That's a very good point. So it will stretch a little bit.
Yep.
It's I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't feel like it stretches too much, but when you are wrapping it around the rod blank, and especially if you try to pull it too tight, which it's kind of hard to do with the CP because the CP kind of wants to move a little bit to begin with. But the snakeskin will stretch a little bit, so you definitely don't want to pull too hard when you're going around to meet that seam. If you did your measurements correctly, it should line up perfectly. So just, be careful. Don't try to move it too much or try to pull it around the rod blank because it will stretch and then your seam won't line up on the other side. What else we got? Leah, can we see the seam? Yes, we will. I'll take that off once it kind of dries up here and maybe towards the end of the show. We'll unravel the tape and let you have a look at it.
Probably should have pre-cut these. So the guys made a little custom decal for the show tonight.
That's good because you can show
And I'll show them what's up.
cutting.
All right. So now, if there's a couple ways. So if
Those are in bags.
we put them in a bag for
Yeah, I just don't even worry about those.
you guys are messing with me here. What? No, I want to pull them out. Did you dull the scissors too?
I didn't touch the scissors.
Are these the scissors you were using?
I don't think so.
Give me these. That was awful. These sound sharp. All right. Good Lord. All right, so we'll get it out of the bag. When you get these here, this is your custom decals. If this is how you want, order them, or let's say you've got a couple decals in a row here, whoever you get them from, how you want them. If you got them in a line like this, I've put my fingerprints all over them. We don't need that. So try to avoid that, and I'll show you how to avoid that when you're cutting it. So if I want this top one, the Crappie Killa, I'll put a piece of tape over it, okay? So there's the Crappie Killa, right? And I got a piece of tape over it. Now what that will do is that will allow me to grab this decal like this. Yes, I'm touching the back, but remember this peels off, but I'm not touching the front, okay? So just from there, you'll take it and just cut it like that. I know, Nick, I'm everywhere, bud. I'm sorry. So now we've got it there, and you're ready to mount this, okay? So I'll show you here real quick how to do this guy. I left a little, as you can see, kind of like handles on the outside, right? I'm going to take another piece, and I'm going to just take a little tiny piece like this. I'm going to stick it to the back. Woo. And then now we're going to peel it off. See how I'm peeling the backing off the Crappie Killa? And then now it's stuck to that. Yeah, it's pretty good. Let's put that aside. Now, still haven't touched the decal, and I've got my handles here. And I can take it and come down to the blank. Stick it there. Kind of use your hand, or even better, we're going to use the burnishing tool. This is a pretty important part, especially on these edges. And the good thing is you can see as I go around this where I really get it with that burnishing tool, because it obviously changes color. Really get on these edges. Work it around. Whoop. Let me get the top here. Then we've got plenty of room out here on the outside to grab it, peel it up. She'll slide her right off. And now you got the Crappie Killa. There it is. Cool. All right, so I'll do one more, and I'll do one if you've just got the single little decal here. Actually, I'll do a couple more. So we've got just a single decal. You know, excuse the fingerprints that I'm putting on this that I told you not to do, just so I can show you. So we got the single decal here. Gonna lay it down. Make sure when we pull the masking tape, we give us enough room. Drop the masking tape over the top of it. Work that decal into that. Then we pull it up. And we've got the decal ready to rock. Now I'm going to use my small piece of tape again. Stick that little piece of tape to it. And then now we're going to pull this section off again. Okay. And we're going to lay her down. Make sure she's good and straight. I'll use the index finger method this time, which you guys learned so well from the burnishing tool last time. Now we're going to pull this guy. And they got us a cool little custom decal for the show. You guys saw that in the header image on Facebook.
Yeah, very
So,
cool.
Yeah. Now, One more quick one for the ones that have the MHX. This is a little different because it has a card attached to it. So this has, this does not have the adhesive backing on it that's clear. This has just like a white card. So technically, this kind of folds up. But remember, you still do it the same way. So I'm going to lay it back down here. Pull me some masking tape off.
Scotch tape.
Yep, Scotch tape. How many times have I called it that this time? It's like, for every time I've called it masking tape, I need to give away another free custom decal. So, all right. So now, instead of sticking the tape to the back of this and pulling it off, you can see I've got it like that. And I'm actually just going to fold it down like that. Peel her right off. And now we lay down the MHX World Class decal. So all your customers know that it's the baddest of the baddest. There's that guy. So, yeah. Now that's clear decals, right? So, if, let's say, hypothetically, you've got maybe your ex-girlfriend's name on the rod, okay? Or you just want to cover up, maybe it's a manufacturer or a rod brand that, you want to make it look like it's yours, right? You want to make it look custom. Maybe it's, one that, you want to show off to your buddies because you like all the other, parts and pieces of it. You re-grip it. Maybe you change the colors of the grips. Maybe you put another, decal over the top of that. That's where that custom rod skin comes in. That's where the snake skin comes in. Things like that you can cover up, a previous manufacturer's name, or, like I said, ex-girlfriend breaks your heart and you take the rod back and you put something else over it, do a snake skin, an open cross wrap, and
boom.
She's as good as gone. So, cool. All right. We're giving away 10 custom decals tonight. So we've got different colors. We got chrome blue and red, and there's gold, white. There's a number of different ones. So what I would say is, if you want to order these up to, say, Tommy Moore's Custom Rods, that'll work. So congratulations, Tommy Moore.
Boom.
Won the 10 custom decals coming at you. So, yeah.
There you go. Third place
Third place
prize.
Tommy
Moore.
Fantastic. Yep. Tony Bumgardner, will a thin coat of super glue on the edges of the decal keep it from coming up? Okay. We have somewhere, I know Guffey's got it. And Guffey, if you saw that question, you better have that image somewhere. We got it. And we'll show you why not to use super glue. We purposely used super glue on, was it a winding check on a carbon fiber grip one time? You put it on and you tack it down, and then it dries and turns this weird white, cloudy over the black carbon fiber. So don't use super glue.
Nope.
For anything. Unless it's like maybe hidden and you want to like tack a winding check, boop, down. Yep. But if any of that super glue gets out, boy, it's a mess. So please do not use super glue for anything. Don't use it for anything, because it does not dry clear on any of that stuff, like Pro Seal will. So remember, that stuff dries clear. Super glue does not. So that's a tough one to wake up to. Yeah. You put everything in, you put it all down, and the next thing you know, oh man, I boogered that up because I used super glue. So.
Well, real quick, let's talk about, because this question always gets thrown in there.
Yep.
What I feel like probably the two main reasons decals either have fish eyes, the edges lift, whatever it may be. I'll do my little spiel, then you can do yours about epoxy. Is your hot epoxy? Good with that?
Absolutely.
So,
I was going to say, which spiel am I doing?
First reason, or we'll call it number one, for decals lifting, edges peeling up, whatever it may be, contamination on your decals, which could be on your rod blank, on your decals, on your hands. fingerprints, anything like that can cause contamination and can cause that edge to lift up from your decal. So to prevent that, one thing you want to do is, that area your decal is going to go in, make sure you wipe it down with either isopropyl alcohol, anything that's not going to be too crazy on it. Wash your hands before you apply the decal. Any of the oils that are on your fingertips, anything like that can cause the decal to lift up. What else?
Make sure that you wait. The hot finish thing.
Well, yeah, go ahead with that.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
So I always call it hot finish. It's when you do 3 and 3 of your Pro Coat, and you mix it up, and it's ready to put on the rod, and you go right over a decal. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. Go over your guides, and then come back to your decal, or do your guides, and then if you don't feel like you have enough time on the finish that you have, just get rid of that finish, mix a new batch, mix it up, put a timer on your phone or an egg timer or whatever, put it for 15-20 minutes, mix it up, put it in one of those foil dishes, let it kind of settle so it's not hot, then come out and put it over your decal. That way, that chemical reaction's kind of toned down a little bit, and it won't be such a. It almost acts like it's a adhesive thinner or something when it's that hot and fresh and it gets up underneath there. So Bobby's got that question. He said, "Did I hear you say that we should seal the decals with CP before we apply finish?" No.
Nope.
I don't do that. I don't think you need to do that. Just make sure that you burnish them down, you don't have oils from your hands on the blank, and you don't use hot finish, and
should be good.
You'll be ready to rock.
Johnny, can you put snake skin and abalone on the rod under double-footed guides like an underwrap, but not under the feet? Does it change the action of the rod? So, short answer is no.
Yeah.
I would say no. Unless you put, under every single guide, and then even if you do that, no, it's not going to really affect the action of the rod to where you're going to notice it. Unless you do it on maybe like an ultralight or like an ice rod, Besides that, no, you're not going to see.
The only time if you're putting all that stuff like on a fly rod way out.
Yeah.
It's not going to change the action because it won't allow it to flex or something, but it will through weight, because the weight of the skin with the extra epoxy and all that stuff. Yeah, it'll change it a little bit. I mean, it's not going to take a fast blank and turn it into a slow blank, but there is something to be said when you start putting too much weight out on the tip of something.
Yeah.
So.
And in reality, more than likely, unless you're using a big surf blank or something, you're not going to be using double-footed guides all the way out to the tip anyway. And if it is that case, then I would have no doubt it's not going to change the action of your rod, because you're dealing with probably a 11, 12-foot rod, and that amount of epoxy is not going to matter.
Correct. That's an interesting question. Douglas said, "Can you leave the snake skin unfinished so people can touch it? Or do you need to put epoxy over it?" So the only thing that I'm worried about is two things. The only thing is two things. That's what I just said. Okay, so two things to worry about. One is wear, because you can wear on that snake skin. If it's in a high wear area, if it's rubbing on your side when you're fishing it, if it's rubbing against another rod blank, or if it's whatever, then you might get left with, wear spots or missing scales or whatever. That's one thing to think about.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I don't know what long exposures to sun would do to that. So I don't know how UV resistant snakes are in general. So I have no idea if the sun is going to rot that. But if it were me and you were going to do something like that, instead of sticking it down with Pro Seal, color preserver type thing, you could probably use like a contact cement.
Yeah.
So you add a little contact cement, put some on the other side, and when it goes to stick, contact cement is there when it sticks. So you better be real confident in where it's going to be and how it's going to stick, and then go around and to be honest with you, for clean edges, I would probably wrap a little on either side, and then you'd put finish over the thread wraps, but then leave the skin blank. I don't know. I mean, it sounds exciting, you know? That sounds like something I might do.
The other option is, if you really wanted to, put maybe a light to medium coat over top of that snake skin, just enough where it's going to kind of maybe show a few of the scales through the epoxy.
Yeah.
Again, you're going to have to, down the line, you're going to have to worry about maybe 1 or 2 chipping off. But if you do enough epoxy over top, you should be able to feel a little bit of texture,
Yeah.
but still protect most of those scales and keep them intact. Something to try.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I get started on this,
Ooh.
that's them. How about that?
So these are the LZR
That's the
guide
chrome one.
kits. Yeah, that's a chrome one. So they come in these really cool carbon fiber boxes. Got that there, yeah. And of course,
Yeah.
there's spinning, casting, and the 3 colors. We've got Gunsmoke Black and is it polish or chrome?
I don't know. That's you, babe.
I think it's polished.
And there's your Gunsmoke and casting. So you can see these are individually. Let me pull. I'm actually going to pull this one out here. You can see it's kind of set into and there like that. So it sits flush, sets in there. It's a really good, handy way to hold on to them, so they're not falling out everywhere. So that's pretty cool. It's a nice box, real attractive looking. These are really nice. These are a huge step up. Well, I wouldn't say a huge step up, but from a lot of guides, they are a huge step up.
Absolutely.
Like I have been using the Elites, but these LZRs, there's just something about them. That ring, we've shown that ring and how thin it is compared to either the standards or other manufacturer guides, but when we've weighed these, you get a lot of guys that talk about, oh, you got to have a titanium frame to be light, or oh, you got to have, but if you take and put a ring that's super thick in a titanium frame, you won't notice as much weight difference as if you take and knock that ring gauge down, I would say. The diameter, the thickness of that ring, that's where you pull a lot of that weight out.
Absolutely.
So having these thinner rings, I've been using them a lot in salt water, and man, they've been good, like real good.
And they're at a really good price point, guys.
So-
And we're not just saying that just because, these aren't an $80 or $100 guide set. These are around the, $30, $40 mark. It's an incredible deal. And you get the guide set, spacing's available for you too. It's all, it's done.
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about abalone.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to bore you guys with the measuring of it again, because you would literally measure this the exact same way. Mm-hmm. You're going to take your tape, you're going to make your marks, you're going to turn this over. It's got a 3M backing, okay? This stuff is sticky. Sticky. So when you stick it, that's where it's going to live. So be prepared. So again, if you're going to do it the caliper way, if you're going to do it the tape way, if you want to try to freehand this deal, I don't recommend that. But I know some guys that have been able to freehand it and then turn a razor blade over and work it, as you go. But again, this is real abalone shell, okay? This is not printed on vinyl. This is real. So I'm going to show you how to put this on, how to work with it. A little bit of cracking. You're going to hear it, you're going to feel it, but it's normal because again, it's real shell. So we're going to need a heat gun. And as always, less is more. I can't tell you, okay, turn it on, use it here for 2 minutes, move it, use it for 2 minutes. You're going to have to feel this thing out, okay? What you don't want to do is overheat any of this stuff. So just when you sit down, don't have, only 2 minutes to do it because you're waiting on your Hot Pocket or something in the microwave. Give yourself a little bit of time. Make sure that as you lay this down, you're going to work with it. So these are just, again, little heads up when you when you get this so you're comfortable with it, because I'm not trying to scare you. It's super easy, but you know, you got to know what you're working with, right?
Absolutely.
So again, this is a adhesive backed product, which I'm going to pull the adhesive backing off. And it's just going to peel like this, okay? Now, just going to show you this, but you can break it. See how it cracked off? So you can break it. So just be prepared. We're going to pull this off. Go a little at a time. Be gentle with it. Now, if you're going to peel this whole thing off, I probably wouldn't do that. What I would do is start on the edge that you're going to work with. And of course, I'm cheating because I'm going to put it between a split grip. And it just so happens that this split grip is about the exact distance that you would want it to be. Give a little bit of room. I'm getting there, guys. Stand by. I just like to be careful with this stuff. Hunter had to pay for it, so I don't want to waste it.
Thanks. You just knocked about 5 cents off a few minutes ago.
That's it. All right. So remember, we have measured this and we have cut it. Fast forward. I'll lay this down, right? I'm going to get it as centered as possible. So that's what that looks like. That is like reflective city. So that's what it, let me turn this a little bit. Whoop. I forgot, it's like a mirror, it's backwards. All right, so now we've got this in between a split grip here. And I'm going to pull some of this backing out. Now, this is a fine time to pull the rest of the backing off because you're not trying to handle this. So if you want to pull the rest of the backing off, knock yourself out. I usually do it that way. It's not a must, but remember, if this is a really thin piece, you know, if you're trying to get this on a smaller diameter blank, which, you know, I don't really recommend putting it on an ice blank, because what's going to end up happening is it's going to crack its way around the blank, and then you'll just end up with an octagon of abalone around a round blank. So you didn't think I was going to pull a shape out, did you?
You got it.
All right.
Geometry.
So now I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to use heat. We have put some hours on this heat gun.
Old Benford.
The old Benford. So I'm going to heat it up. And you can see it's kind of wanting, it's really hard to show. I wish I could show. Can you see it flexing a little bit there? See how it looks more flexible? So what it's doing is it's softening up a little bit. You can see it. It was much more rigid like when I first started. So now it wants to soften up. And then we're going to get the old trusty burnishing tool. And that is what's going to help us work this thing around the blank. And you can see it wants to conform to the blank pretty well as it comes around. Let's go back, touch it a little bit. And you will hear little cracks, little pops and cracks. But the good thing is even if it does show a little crack that you can see, all right? Oh, and be careful. You saw I waited, 30 seconds or whatever before I laid my hands on this. If you hit this with a heat gun and heat it up and you go to touch it, you're probably going to leave your fingerprint behind with some skin. So just be prepared for that because it is hot, so don't do that. But now that it's cooled a little bit, you can work your way around. And it's actually very clean. I mean, you can see there's really no sharp edges there on this. And that's just kind of how you work it around. So as we work this around, hopefully if you had measured correctly, you'll come back with the seam. Did you notice I went Halloween vibe?
Saw that.
Had the black grips and the orange abalone. There's a lot of little Easter eggs that people can miss if they don't watch closely.
Johnny asked you use your heat gun on high or low. He's got high, medium, and low, and he doesn't want to mess up the only piece that he has.
I too like to live dangerously. No, I always use the heat gun on low to start, and then work your way from there. But don't just come out full bore running it on high, especially if it's the only piece you got. So. Now I'm just going to bust this off. Again, this is not how I would really do it, but I just want to show you guys you can break it. So there you go. The abalone, because it has and it is sticky, the abalone, because it has kind of a wild pattern, and it's saving grace if you, man, this thing is just, I'll just leave that on for later. And it's saving grace to having kind of a wild pattern. The underside of this is the same color. So you can see it's kind of orangey, whereas the snake skin can be, kind of a white opaquish kind of color. But you can see there that the underside kind of blends in. So, there's your seam right there. You can see it. And the good thing is, as I had mentioned, any little kind of imperfections or cracks as this folds around, or your seam is going to be hidden by your Pro Coat. So it's just like your decal edges. Your decal edges get hid by the Pro Coat. So does the abalone. So that's a really good, thing to keep in mind, that if this doesn't match up perfectly, please don't panic.
Yeah.
You're good to go. Then what I would do out here on the edges, just run your, little decorative thread work, little trim band up here, and you're ready to rock. Mm-hmm. Maybe do a metallic, maybe do a couple, kind of get excited with it.
Yeah.
Then put a little finish over it. If you want to come back over it, put a decal over it, add another little bit of finish. As you stack finish over the top of abalone, it gives it even more depth. It makes it stand out even more because it magnifies it. So it's like as you stack more and more finish on top of a tiger wrap,
Yep.
it's really going to make it go, whoa. Yep. So.
How about we do second place prize winner?
Yep.
We'll do some questions and then grand prize for the last.
Cool. So you're going to get an abalone kit, which has different colors in it. And then we're also going to throw in the heat gun.
Awesome.
Why not?
Second place winner, Leah Courtney. So you get the abalone kit with the heat gun. Leah Courtney,
That's
second
perfect.
place winner.
That's excellent. Cool. Right on. All right. Let's see. Tommy, is there any way to fix a decal that lifts under the epoxy other than strip it and redo with another decal? So Tommy, it depends on how much lifts, what you're left with down, because just as those that maybe have a hard tag in that's sticking out of your finish, you can take it, you can cut it with a razor blade, come back in and put another coat over it, you're going to be okay. If the edge of your decal, maybe just kind of the wings a little bit on the outside, you can come in with a razor blade, cut them out, finish over it. Now, if half the decal pulls up and then the words are kind of all flexed and turned, you got to cut it all out.
Yep.
You got to strip it, pull it out, redo it.
Or just wrap over with some thread if possible.
I was gonna say.
If you can buff it out or even take some fine sandpaper, make sure it's kind of just
Just get
flat.
it level.
Just get it level, flat.
Yep.
Thread over top, and then you can bring in another decal. Finish over top of your thread, and then throw a decal over top of that, more finish, and then what that basically saves you is just trying to do that cleanup job on that first decal.
Because that can be a pain, especially finish that is good finish, it's new, it hasn't been, affected by the sun for years, it hasn't dried out. Sometimes that finish can be flaked off and chipped, and you can just go down it and pull it off, and that's much easier. But, that's, I would do what you said. Is come back in, maybe marble over it. I don't know. Cover it, right? Just get it down, put it in your, hopefully you got your RBS Pro, put it in there, get some sandpaper, knock it down, nice and level. Tint the epoxy, cover it, magic marble it, cover it, throw some thread work, cover it, and then do it all over again. So.
Dan, what about the abalone fish decals? Unfortunately, we've had to kind of do away with the abalone fish decals. That's just been a kind of decision that's had to be made. They were popular for a little while. Unfortunately, we just had to kind of get rid of them. But that's all I got for that.
Tony asked, would nitrile or latex glove help prevent contamination? I'm assuming that you're talking about contamination on a decal. It would, from putting your fingerprint on the top of the decal. Just be aware that Scotch tape loves to stick to a latex glove or a nitrile glove. I mean, it loves to stick to it. So depending on how, sticky your Scotch tape is. See, I said Scotch tape.
Scotch. Yeah.
How sticky that Scotch tape is, the gloves might be just an absolute pain because you're going to be like, well, that stuck to that, and then you got to put your finger, then that stuck to that, and it, that might be a little bit of a hassle. So just keep that in mind. So let's see. Casey, can you thread over the abalone, or do you need to put a coat of finish first? Casey, that abalone is stuck where it's stuck. Period. You can run thread over that thing. You can do cross wraps over it. You can do anything over the top of that abalone, pretty much, that you want. It is not moving. Literally, it's not moving. It has taken me the last 5 minutes just to get it off my fingertips. It's not going anywhere. It's not like snakeskin. It has a 3M adhesive backing on it. Where you put it is where it sticks, and keep that in mind, because if you place it and then you go, oh man, I really don't want it there, let me pick it up. You go to pick it up, whatever is stuck to the blank will be stuck to the blank, and you'll break it, and then you'll be left with pieces. So you really just gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah, so Steve, do you use a razor blade to cut that abalone?
Yeah.
So yeah, and the only reason he actually did that was because we kind of skipped the measurement part, which is the exact same as the snakeskin.
Yep.
So we took that out of the equation. In a perfect world, when you go to do this, you're gonna do your measurements, pre-cut this, and when that abalone wraps all the way around, it's gonna meet the seam perfectly, and you're not gonna have to use a razor blade to cut that.
Yep.
But for your measurements and all that, yes, you can use a razor blade. If that was your question.
I usually do just use one of these guys, little ruler, straight edge, throw it down. I will say though, I was actually, even though I rushed that abalone, I'm pretty happy with just freehanding it, because if it's me, because the abalone seam is forgiving, I would rather have the abalone a little long to where it actually wraps over itself a smidge than short. And that's because the abalone has such a wild marbled pattern in it that it hides the seam much better than something that is just one solid color. And let's say I'm putting this wild marbled abalone over the top of this solid black blank. If there is a perfect black seam down the back of it because they didn't come all the way together, I'm gonna sweat that more than the abalone wrapping over the top of it for, 1/64th of an inch just because when you put finish over it, it hides it. So, yeah. All right, you want to show that?
Yeah, we can show. We got another one of Pat's rods here, and I actually kind of want to hit on something here. He really didn't do it much on this rod, but I think it's kind of a cool idea. If you want to incorporate, we good there, guys? Yep. If you want to incorporate maybe like almost a snake skin that flows all the way through your rod. What's cool is you can actually, before you put your handle on, kind of lay out all your components, kind of figure out where they're going to go, make a China mark at each one where each one stops. You can put this snake skin down, and if it goes a little bit, actually, imagine this butt cap is off, if it goes a little bit farther down to the edge of your rod blank, and then you go to put your butt cap over top of it, it makes a cool transition, right?
Yep.
You don't even need any thread. Do that to the same on your rear grip here. You know, I don't think you could quite do it underneath your exposed reel seat here. That would be a little tough.
Yeah.
But if
because you'd have to put finish over it or it'd chip it.
So you got here in your split grip, looks like it goes all the way through. You can also do it up here to your foregrip. You know, use a thread ramp or whatever you want to. Make that flow to the top here, and then you can throw in a couple underneath your guide wraps. Just makes a cool effect. You get that kind of like snake skin going throughout your rod.
Absolutely. The snakeskin deal is cool no matter how way you cut it. You know, whether you got snakeskin boots, whether you got snakeskin on the rod, it's it's sharp. It certainly always is sharp. All right, you want to give away the big deal because we're looking at out quarter till. So and I know y'all probably need to get to those hot pockets.
Grand prize winner. So we got our SJ842 MHX metallic rod blank kit, which if you guys haven't checked out, we got a ton of new metallic colors in some of the MHX rod blanks. Plus, we're going to throw in some of the decorative stuff that we worked with up here, the abalone, the snake skin.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, whatever we got laying around, we might throw in for your prize package. So, grand prize winner, Morgan Grady. Morgan Grady, grand prize winner.
Nice. Fantastic. Cool. Well, I got to tell you, even though I'm, black threads with black guides and, plain stuff,
it's pretty cool.
I do have a few with the abalone.
Pretty cool.
I do. I don't have much with the snakeskin, but I do rock the abalone. And I know if y'all didn't get to see the show where we did the dragon scale with the mesh tape, that one's a personal favorite of mine as well. So of the decorative stuff, the abalone and the dragon scale thing is I do try to work that in there a little bit. So
it's just stuff you don't see on other rods out there. Like factory rods off the shelf. Even some of your other buddies, if they get a couple custom rods, this type of stuff you don't usually see it on there.
Right,
this
exactly.
Is unique. It makes your rod stand out. Something you can show off to your buddies.
Yep.
It's not hard to do. That's always the big misconception is this stuff is so hard to do, and it is not.
Right. And keep in mind, just because we didn't show it, if you have, a cigar band, if you've got a wrapper from a cigar band, right? You want to put that on. You do it just like you do a snakeskin. Use that color preserver, stick it to the blank, put finish over it. If you want to use, I know in that rod, actually grab Pat's rod there. Yeah, because he's actually, is that the one that's got feather in it? No, it's the other one.
So
grab the other one.
The jungle cock.
Yeah, so keep in mind, he's got jungle cock feather in here, okay? So he's worked it in here in the butt section. He's got it out here above the foregrip. I mean, that's about as wild as it gets, right? So think about that. If you've got, feathers, if you've got, some things like that at the house, if they're, some of those like really pretty saddle hackle feathers, you can do that with any of this stuff. So just keep in mind that it doesn't just have to be snake, or it doesn't just have to be, things like that. You can work any of those things in there. And then what's he got on the butt cap?
I believe I looked at that correctly. It looks like 2 fangs from a snake. I don't know if you can zoom in there, but there's a snake skin pattern, and I think, am I right on that?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's
wild.
That's one of a kind.
That's
right
one of a
there.
kind. So again, you know, he did the same thing. He put some snakeskin there. He tacked those down, put some finish over it. You know, it's really the same process. You know, that's what we're trying to stress here is get outside the box a little bit. Use your imagination. You know, get some snakeskin from us. Get some of that abalone shell. That's really what, you know, because if you go in and you buy a rod off the shelf, you know, oh yeah, they might have some metallic trim bands, and yeah, that's great. You know, I do it, he does it, whatever. But if you really want to start to get a little wild, you know, just branch out a little bit. There's kind of, we always talk about it. There's never anything wrong per se in custom rod building, but just use some of these tips and tricks to help you expand and you know, try to think outside the box a little bit. You're going to try to use all those, you know, all those little tips and tricks we showed you for whatever it may be. So it's a pretty good show.
Pretty good show. So
This was awesome.
Do a
Quick recap.
Recap of the winners. We can scroll up real quick. Third place, the 10 custom decals, Tommy Moore. Second place, Leah Courtney, the abalone kit with heat gun, and the grand prize winner, Morgan. I might have messed up your last name the first time. I'm not sure if it's Grady or Grady.
Probably Grady.
Either way.
Yeah, why not?
Grand prize winner, the SJ42 MHX metallic rod kit.
Yep.
Congratulations to all of you.
Fantastic. Now, we're in that time frame where we've beefed up the show a little bit. So you saw us at the beginning of the month. Now here we are on what? Is it the 15th, I think?
15th?
15th. So now we're here on the 15th. You're going to see us again in 2 weeks. So we want to make sure that you get to see our pretty faces as much as you can before the holidays. Plus, we want to make sure that we're here to answer your questions. We're showing you some tips and tricks. We're doing some stuff. Hopefully you guys are, you know, building some rods for some loved ones, or maybe you've got your rod building business, and of course this time of year is great around the holidays and the new year. That's where we try to come in and answer those questions. Maybe you're sitting at the rod building bench watching us on Facebook. And speaking of Facebook, Mudhole Live's Rod Builders Workshop, that page is where we do the pre-show, where we answer the post-show questions, where we jump on there at, you know, 10 o'clock at night to help answer questions. And I want to say that group is somewhere near, or I think it's nearing 3,000 people. Maybe it's close. It's
Wow.
nearing 3,000 members. That's a huge group there, and everybody, of course, is welcome. And it's just been a great community. And it's not because of us. It's because of y'all that are in that group, answering questions, posting cool rod pics, things like that. We love them. Love the rod pics. Love the fish pics. Everybody's real supportive in there. You know, nobody's negative or anything like that. And we appreciate it because we'll just kick you out. But we haven't had to do that because you guys are so great. So that is awesome. So 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Had a good show. Gave some stuff away. Shopped on your credit card. Am I missing anything?
Looks like we had a record show tonight. Is that
Pretty
what I'm looking
high
at?
numbers. Maybe broke the 1,000 barrier. That's big.
That's huge.
That is huge. So again, check the sales page, clearance. We're going to be putting some stuff in there, sprinkling some goodness in there as we get closer to the holidays. The quick lines are on sale. The LZRs are in stock. And of course, for those that haven't heard, we're leading the way in free shipping. There's nobody that's doing free shipping on every order inside, you know, United States, and no oversized fees under 8 feet.
Yep.
Nobody's doing it. We're doing it till the end of the year for you guys because we appreciate y'all that much.
Can't beat it.
Can't beat it. So cool. All right. Well, we will get out of here. I know Mom's hollering. The hot pockets are getting cold. And, you know, as always, for the group, we got Jay, Nikki Mintz, Guffey. Taylor can't be here. Hopefully he's shooting under par. We miss you, bud. Hunter McCamey. I'm Chris Adams, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys. See you
Have a
next
great
time.
rest of the week.